All right, I'm recording too, so there will be a show.
Cool. Well, in that case, welcome to Astro the Roundtable, episode 270. My name is Ben Bumhofer. It is definitely not Friday night. It is something else entirely, and it's a little weird because we're not doing it live, but that's what happens when other stuff in your life kind of pops up. So, with that being said, there is one thing that hasn't changed, and that is, with me as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
Happy Memorial Day, Ben. Hello. We are here on a holiday,
Yeah,
which it serves no purpose in me saying because people are likely hearing this not on the holiday. So
that is.
instead of being psyched up for the weekend and for time off, people are instead going to probably be like, well, I hope you had fun, you jerks.
Well, let me ask, did you have a good weekend?
I did. It was quiet. I didn't really do much of anything, which is good. That's what I wanted. I wanted a non-busy weekend, which I know now me saying this, you're like, gosh dang it, John. But no,
No,
I
never think that.
I wanted a weekend where I was free to not do anything. And so my weekend consisted of me telling myself, "Oh, I should," and then not doing any of those things.
Oh, well, good. You got what you wanted.
What about you, Ben?
Well, for me, it was very busy. I was working the Phoenix Comic Fest with Nevermore. She had a booth set up, and we did our boothing stuff and sold wares and whatnot. And I think it was pretty successful. But they are very long days, and you're on your feet a whole lot. And it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, I'm glad it's over, even though it was a lot of fun. But I did do something that I probably shouldn't have, but I did anyway. And that is spend way too much money on separate dice bags for my various bits of dice that I have.
Well, hey, there you go. You did it.
Yeah,
You-
I did it.
You're living the dream.
Yeah, ever so much. But this way I can be like, which character am I playing, or am I DMing? And then I just grab a bag, and then I'll know that it's the right dice.
I
Not that
mean,
I'm superstitious, but I totally am apparently.
no, I mean, I think that's an important part of it. I'm certainly that way when we do the show. I have two sets of dice out, depending on how luck decides to favor me.
Hmm.
But then I also have a special D20 out that is my risk reward D20, is what I call it.
Oh, so
Because
it's one of those 1 or 20.
no, it consistently rolls high. Wait, no, I'm thinking of a different one. The one that is so I have a red one. It's like classic D&D basically. It's a red die with white letters on it. And it feels like it's all or nothing. I get more nat 20s on it than anything. But it feels like it's okay, it was a nat 20 or it was sub 10. It feels like those are the options for it.
Yeah.
So when I really want a natural 20, it's my go-to because it comes up more on that dice than anything else. But it's risk reward because if it doesn't come up right there,
Pretty
it,
much
it
screwed.
doesn't roll great otherwise.
Well, I am. Well, first of all, okay, so the fact that we were at the con and everything, I did miss There Will Be Dungeons this week, and I'm very excited to listen to it.
It
So,
goes places.
so I hear. So I hear.
And that's me saying it as a show where somebody went up a Cyclops loincloth. So
Yes. That was the first thing I thought of when you told me that it goes places. I'm like, oh, it went there. Where's it going this time?
I wouldn't say quite as weird, but like more, oh.
And Nash performs open heart surgery from the inside.
So yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend. It sounds like
Yeah.
you had a pretty good one, all things considered.
So one thing that I was able to do though is I think it was maybe Friday night. I was able to log in and there were actually invasions going on during that time. And I got to tell you, John, it is weird to have all but one of your characters that you're leveling at 110.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
every time, honestly, I feel like I've spent so little time with this expansion. I know that's not true. I think overall, blanket statement, I'm at a higher level of time spent with an expansion than normal, but there's a part of me that feels like I haven't done anything in this one.
I kind of understand that.
And when I log in and I'm like, oh, max level, max level, max level, near max level, also doing pretty good. I get shocked that I've made so much progress with these characters.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But I mean, as I'm going through and like just leveling with just the invasions, I'm realizing that it doesn't help with me learning how to play them all that well. But I mean, for the most part, I've got all of them down except I mentioned it before, except for the druid and then the rogue, and I'm kind of working on those. I understand the rogue a little bit better now, but it's not as well. I feel like I'm just a horrible rogue, but I think you and I have probably decided that over the years anyway.
No, you just gotta play it like Beethoven's Fifth. Two two
Yeah.
two three. 2223.
Yeah, and I have been doing that, but so the last time that we talked about this, and I said that Shadow was bad, and you suggested Discipline, I swapped over, and immediately I really enjoyed playing my
It's
priest.
so much better, Discipline.
Yes, it is.
It's got the swooshy thing.
Yeah, the shoo, shoo, shoo. I like that one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Exactly.
underestimate the value of an awesome spell. And honestly, I think that might be part of why Warlock isn't working for me to some degree right now. Because they did not get the fancy, new, shiny spell animations. And so it's boring looking. And none of the spells seem cool. I'm
Like, don't you just basically like throw dots and then have a line?
Well, if you're the one spec, the other spec calls down fire, but the fire zigs across the ground. I'm sure that's for some people. That's not for me. For me, it just looks like my spells are drunk.
But at least they get home.
I mean, they get there eventually. It's just like, hey, I'm just gonna go get that guy. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay, we got it.
Yeah. So, okay, question for you then. How have you been doing with the order hall stories? Like, I know that you're, like you said, you've got a lot that are kind of 110 and some that are getting there and everything. When you're leveling, are you actually like going through the storyline as well? Or are you doing what I'm doing, which is, hey, I'm 110. I can actually see the story and like just blow through it now.
In for my past characters, I was kind of doing as much as I could while I went,
Hmm.
and that was kind of my approach to it. The monk certainly hit a snag with that when I was like, oh, okay, sweet, order hall. And it was like, we would like some crafting resources. And I was like, I would like you to kiss my butt. I have no interest in getting you your crafting resources. So that one is the first one where I was like, okay, maybe not gonna see as much of this one as I did on the others. Because even though I have the money, I
Hmm.
could just go to the auction house and buy it.
Or if you don't use the burning blood of Sargeras or whatever, just go to that trader and get it that way.
I am the right level of lazy to say that that is, though easier than running a heroic, the right level of I don't want to do that.
Okay. Well, so okay, here's the thing about like spacing it out and everything. If you're only leveling through invasions, I have no idea what's going on in the Hunter Order Hall. Like no clue. I read the text and everything, no clue.
They like animals to die,
You're part of
but
a cult, I know that.
also, what if we were friends with them?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I have Rexar with me, and he's cool. I mean, he and Misha run around with me, and it's fantastic. I never get hurt when I'm running around on my hunter now because I've got Haiti, I've got Skull, I've got Rexar, and I've got Misha. I've got a whole freaking army to myself. I'm just like, yeah, just go do stuff, guys. I'll
Well,
take things.
we can all rest assured that whoever worked on the amazing Hunter Class Hall story received their due by being promoted to write the Horde faction story for Battle for Azeroth.
Okay. Well, again, let me put it this way. I haven't finished it yet.
Maybe it's good.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't remember the beginning part at all.
Much like the Battle for Azeroth story. By the way, that's not true. That was me being sarcastic. So before anybody goes out there and says, why would they have Blizzard do that? I don't know that they did that. I'm being what people in the know call a smarty because I wanted to throw a little shade at the story for Battle for Azeroth.
Yeah, yeah. But I can tell you that the priest campaign, there's a crazy guy, and I am trying to figure out if he's crazy or if he's actually telling the truth. And then I can tell you that the Death Knights have so far the coolest campaign, like ever.
Yeah,
And
they did quite well.
The rogues, it seems to be like it's gonna be pretty darn cool because I'm at a point where it's like, hey, check out this body for evidence. And I'm like, I'm gonna get to 110 first. But at least I kind of have an idea of, hey, this seems to be really cool. And then let's see, what else do I have to do? Oh, the druid. I couldn't tell you what's going on with the druids. Other than probably druid stuff like, oh, it's Emerald Nightmare. Oh no.
What if nature?
Oh, hey, that's a good call. Yeah.
I don't know. They're fine. But here's the thing. I think, and I don't want to turn this into I just wanted to throw a little shade. I don't want to turn this into a whole bash topic. But my big thought when I look at Legion is whether or not you enjoyed the class storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I felt heroic in every single one of them. Even in the Death Knight.
Yeah.
I mostly understood what they were going for.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
at the end of the day, it was also, but you're also a Death Knight.
Yeah. But, I mean, you got that whole Death Knight-y class fantasy of it.
Yeah. And I think the issue that I'm seeing, without going into spoiler territory, is when I look at Battle for Azeroth, I don't know who to root for.
Meaning faction or character or class or
any of it.
Any of it.
Because my main character isn't doing what I want my main character to do. So,
which is be heroic.
If the high concept is you're the heroes now, I don't feel like it. By my character making the decision to be a part of a war effort and go into Horde v Alliance and just be all about that, I've already moved my character from the hero of the narrative to the same level that I view the faction, which I don't view the faction as being very heroic either. And for the record, this isn't yelling about Sylvanas or the Horde. I feel the same way about the Alliance. I don't think they're particularly heroic, and I don't think I particularly want to be on their faction either. So I look at it, and I kind of feel like Anduin's the only decent character in the bunch, but I kind of also don't like Anduin because I feel like I'm being sold a bill of goods. I feel like I'm being sold a, like, too good of a guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So far, Anduin doesn't have any issues. He's had bad things happen to him, but he doesn't really seem to have any problems.
I know you've been hurt before with the person who seems like the obvious right choice, the one who's going to save everything, and then turns out, oh, no, he's the worst.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
Oh,
but,
okay.
I see. I'm going along with your narrative. It's called Yes and.
I just thought you had someone in mind.
No, not really. But so the thing is that, you know, you and I, we both love Sylvanas. We've talked about this many, many times. And Sylvanas is doing things that are, you know, kind of Sylvanas-y, but not in a way that people don't understand. And as much as we want to say that she's, you know, there's a plot, there's a plan, there's a thing that's going on, she's really being made out to be the worst thing in the world.
Right. And
that's a bummer. You're right, though, because it seems like Anduin's the good choice, but previously Jaina was the good choice. And I mean, granted, bad crap went down. We're not going to rehash that whole like, oh, Jaina's just mean now. No, we're not doing that.
Remember Theramore, Ben.
Yeah, I know.
Why aren't you remembering Theramore?
Well, I am. But anyways, it's still it's hard for me to kind of go along with that. And again, we're getting into the whole idea of game versus book. When it's like she kind of came to terms with what happened, but is still going incredibly evil and like almost genocidal. I don't know. It's weird. But then you're right. You have Anduin sitting there who he's the leader of the Alliance. And I mean, if you could say the worst thing about him that he's doing is just seemingly letting Gen just go in and completely control him.
He's kind of the problem with original Thrall as war chief, which is in his quest to be the all-around good guy, he's maybe not doing what's best for his people or the world.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I think that's just the one thing is like every time I look at the story, I'm looking for who I'm supposed to be cheering for. And I feel like in its quest to be dark and edgy, I can't find it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there is the whole concept of, hey, everybody's got, shades of gray as opposed to there being black and white and everything like that. But when those shades of gray just turn too dark, it turns into just, it's not a happy, fun instance of something. There's a reason why the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are good. Well, except for maybe the third one. I'm still iffy on that. Versus, Man of Steel. The characters themselves are, inherently so different. I mean, they both lost their birth family or whatever, the birth parents. But I don't know why I'm telling everybody the backstory of Batman.
Oh, yeah. So wait, what happened now with Batman's family?
Well, they died. I don't know.
What?
I've never known that.
He didn't see it, did he?
Oh, no, he saw it.
Oh, good Lord.
I know, right?
That would scar a boy.
It would. But, when you take like an inherently, darker turn for him, it's kind of character fitting, but they still had, I mean, albeit is very tiny, they still had good points and good, like light characters in there. Like Gordon was a good character and things like that. So you had places to kind of draw from and see that why he was making the decisions he was, and it was for the ultimate good versus something like, Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or whatever, where it's like, oh, well, dark and edgy is in right now, and that Nolan trilogy was really good, so let's make this dark. And then they dimmed the lights down so much that you just couldn't really find any happy, good, redeeming things in there.
I mean, I think for my controversial statement of the moment, I would say World of Warcraft is not a Shades of Grey universe.
Mm-hmm.
World of Warcraft is a black and white good and evil universe. And I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to argue with that. And they're going to say, well, John, but the Arthas story, he was an anti-hero just trying to do the best. It was the story of a good guy turning into a villain. It wasn't a Shades of Grey. There wasn't a moral, like, you could look at it and you could say, how did Arthas go down this path? Is it something I can understand happening? But at the end of the day, the story of Arthas, which is kind of their big story moment, so that's why I'm kind of sticking with it.
Yeah.
It is Star Wars. It's the fall of Anakin Skywalker. Like, it is the classic hero's journey story. And that's kind of where WoW operates. And occasionally it delves into nuance, but I don't know if you remember, a long while back, we ran a poll saying, what kind of fantasy world do you think World of Warcraft should be?
I remember,
and
because that was a good poll.
Almost universally, people said, tonally, it should be like Lord of the Rings. It should be fun and lighthearted, but not afraid to have serious moments, basically. And that was over options like it should be kind of Disney, where everything's fun and good spirits. It should be Game of Thrones, where everything's dark and political intrigue.
And nobody's safe.
Yeah, and the Lord of the Rings won by a mile.
It was something like 90%.
And it feels like with the rise of popularity of something like Game of Thrones, it's like the people in the WoW writers room said, well, we should dip our toes in there. We should get into it. And I don't think everybody's on board with it.
No, I mean, like there's definitely always been a shift of focus, a shift of tone, and things like that in WoW. I mean, it's been around for so long. Like, what's the whole idea of that? Like every 7 years, you're a different person, or you have different likes or tastes or whatever like that, which I don't fully agree with. But like, is the idea that when a lot of people started out playing this game, who've been playing this entire time, they were teenagers, maybe early college or something like that, and have grown up with the game. And I'm not obviously not saying everybody's like that, but the idea is that lives change throughout the course of it. But one thing that's been, mostly consistent through this whole thing has been the tone. And you're right, it's a black and white game. There's always a big evil that we always face and things like that. The factions themselves have shades of gray, and that's perfectly fine. And that's the way to run it, because you want the Horde to be the good guys to Horde players. You want the Alliance to be the good guys to the Alliance players. And if you flat out make one faction bad, or both factions bad, seemingly in this case, what's making you want to actually run around with them and do things for them when, I mean, I don't think that faction pride is enough to really hold you, down doing these horrible things.
Yeah, I guess that's the point where my breaking point with the story has been lately, is it's not about what they're making X character do. It's more become, okay, but now they're asking my character to be a part of that. That's the thing about video games, where, you sometimes see people who love horror movies but can't play scary video games.
Mm-hmm.
Because the difference there between a horror movie and a horror video game is that you're asking the person participating in the experience to push the narrative forward in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, that's too much. If the character's going to go investigate the strange noise in a movie, they're going to do that. You can hide your eyes, you can make jokes, you can do whatever you got to do to rationalize that, but it's coming. And you can adjust yourself as needed. In a video game, you have to be the person to go and investigate that noise. And for some people, that's too much of a step to engage with, because all of a sudden you're asking for something more. Well, it's sort of the same thing. If WoW was a TV series or a comic book, I'd probably be the first person out there going, guys, patience. Let's see where the story goes. Let's see what happens. Where it becomes the thing where it's like, oh, John's belly aching about the story again, is that now you're asking me as a player to be a part of these events and be excited to be a part of it. Now, there's an element of role play here. Hey, you're role playing a character that's into this, and I can totally get behind that and do that. But this isn't the introduction to that character. This isn't a starting point. This is us having been playing the game for years. We have a very good idea of what our characters are, what they're into, what they do, what they like, what they don't like. Or for some people, their character is just an extension of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think drawing a hard line and saying, hey, guess what? You're really into this, is a tough thing to sell some players on. And I think I'm one of those people that's having a very hard time, drinking the Kool-Aid on this one.
Yeah, and especially if it's something, as big as, hey, you're joining the war effort and you're going to go kill some Alliance. Why? Because we're killing Alliance today. The whole idea that they're essentially separating the world, separating everything into, the faction continents and everything. We have our own specific faction quest hubs and things like that. I don't know. It seems like it breaks the world apart in a way that doesn't feel right at all. I've always been able to explore the world, to be out there and to, yeah, I've never been able to step out of my actual faction and, walk into an alliance town or whatever, but at least that world was there for me to go into. Now it's just, okay, well, we're sequestering them over here so that we can tell their story. We're, pushing them over there so that they can get theirs. And it goes against the whole idea of, like the exploration, the wonder, the heroism, the journey that, my character would go on and do. And the fact that I've switched mains to a monk, and I mean, I'm having a really hard time digesting what she's going to be doing through this. It's almost like they needed to have 4 overall stories of, okay, here is where the warmongering people go for the Horde, and then story number 2 is warmongering people for the Alliance, and then we have, like, I don't know, the late 60s, early 70s hippie group for the Horde, and
Yeah.
70s hippie group for the Alliance. And that way it's like we're not that group might not essentially be like undermining the war effort or something like that, but they're able to protest, they're able to do their own side of it. And we're given the choice of actually doing what we believe our character would.
Yeah, I mean, just because Jaina has said, oh, peace was a mistake, there can be no peace, doesn't mean we as players have subscribed to that notion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult because sometimes it feels like, well, Jaina, she was the big peacemaker of the bunch, and she doesn't think we should have peace. Okay, well, I still do. I think Jaina should get over Theramore. That's right. I said it. I think it's time to just let it go.
So, did you read the Jaina comic?
No.
She didn't get over Theramore.
I know. I read the preview for it, and I was like, you know what? I get it. You're sad about Theramore. Whoop-de shit. So am I, because guess what? It was all tied up with Garrosh stuff, and I didn't like him either.
So let's look at it this way. How long has it actually been since Theramore? Like, in-game? Like, I know that we have no timelines whatsoever, but... So we have all of Pandaria. We've got all of Draenor. We've got all of Legion. So... let's say 3 years. Let's say a year for each expansion or something like that.
Yeah, which I actually think is conservative. I know for a while the story was each expansion tells a year in the story, but I think at some point they might have also toyed with the idea of it's real time. So the 2 years it took for us to put out another expansion was the 2 years that the story took.
Yeah, and what like when we were in Draenor, the time was supposed to be going differently there or something too?
Yeah, I don't know. But let's go with the minimum of what they've ever said, which is 1 year per expansion. So she's had 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
look, everybody mourns their own time, their own way. We're not saying anything like that. We're looking at this in a pure fictional narrative kind of way. So please, we understand. But
I think my issue with it is that they have put out other forms of media where she has seemed at different levels past it.
Yeah, and that's where I'm with you on, and that's where I want to jump into this. War Crimes was a big one. She basically, I don't remember exactly if she even said the words, "Oh, I forgive him," but she, kind of let go of all the hatred and everything at the end of that. Then the next time we saw her in game, kill the Horde. It's such a twist and such a turn that, I think that's one of the big reasons why everyone's like, Jaina's a dreadlord.
Yeah. And it's, again, not because we feel like Jaina shouldn't be capable of being angry for 3 years. It's that I've read multiple times in books now about how she's let it go. Mm-hmm. And I continue to hear about how she's let it go. and now she's dressing like the character from Frozen who sang Let It Go. And
Not exactly. She's wearing like naval clothes as opposed to a dress made of ice, apparently.
she looks
Okay, the braid does, yeah.
exactly.
Like the hair does, yes. I'll go with you on that. But
Uh, but I mean, she hasn't. And again, it would feel fine if the narrative was consistent. I would be fine with Sylvanas being a villain if that narrative was consistent. But they kind of want to have it both ways.
mhm.
And it's the desire to have things both ways. And I understand it's an evolving world. Sometimes you pivot. Look, the amount of times I've changed the story for my character, I get feeling the need to pivot from time to time.
Would you
But
say it's happened almost as many times as an expansion has come out?
probably, I think I rewrite my character's backstory just about every expansion, usually multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes if they create, say, an entire allied race based on a concept you had at the start of the expansion, despite not knowing that a void elf was going to be invented over the course of the expansion, but you thought, hey, the idea of an elf infused with void energy sure would be cool. And then apparently someone at Blizzard, who's your like identical thought twin, was like, hey, that would be cool, and made it a thing. And you suddenly have to rewrite your entire headcanon because of it. That
Well,
happens too.
let's get this out of the way first. Do you keep that written on a Google Doc?
No.
Oh, well then, yeah, thought twin.
Yeah. They're not spying on me. They just but we're on a same wavelength sometimes for some things. Whoever it
Ye-
is that came up with that idea, they're all right.
It's John with an H.
Oh no.
Yeah, by the way, everybody who writes in, John's name does not have an H in it. It's just Jon. Just had to throw that out there every now and
The
then.
one that bugs me, if I want to get really into it, like, I'm okay. I understand I spell my name the not popular way. Like, there's a popular way, thanks Bible, to spell John, and people are going to use it. You know, when I go to a restaurant and they say name and I say John, I know I'm going to get John. I've made peace with that. I'm okay with it. Where it bugs me is places like Twitter where they have to type at John_Jagger and then they say John John, and I'm like, what are you doing? You actually had to type it the correct way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And I've always wondered that too. And unless it's just one of those people who's just trying to get a rise out of you in the first place. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, and it's more effort too, really. Like, that's the other thing. If I spelled it John and it was a matter of shortening the name, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's an element of, okay, they thought 4 letters was too many. They shortened it to 3. But this is a case of them giving themselves more work.
That's okay. Anyways, um, yeah. So if we were to craft a new Battle for Azeroth expansion,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's us. We're the ones coming up with the story and everything like that. And I know that you and I are both, you know, not into the idea of, oh, well, let's just fight each other. But if that was our goal and our task, how would you start it and how would you make it work?
I would have the Alliance claim that they had a right to Lordaeron. If they want to make it about Azerite, I would put a rich Azerite vein under Lordaeron.
Okay.
I would have the Alliance claim that they have rights to the town, with it being a human kingdom. I would have Gen convince Anduin that based on the Horde's treachery, they should go and take it before the Horde can use it as a weapon against them, and have Anduin be convinced that that was the smart move. Now, don't get me wrong. Sylvanas, totally mining Azerite.
Mm-hmm.
She's into it. But she hadn't attacked anybody. I would have her still do probably what happens in that battle. Well, I'm trying to avoid spoilers and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So
To
you mean the opening scenario?
to some degree, yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe not full Lich King levels that it might go, but to some degree, I would have her still do the same thing. The whole concept of if I can't have it, nobody can have it.
Yeah.
I would have
Last resort on her part.
I would have the retaliation against Teldrassil, and I would have that go wrong or escalate to a level where the burning of the tree at least feels somewhat justified for some reason.
Yeah.
And I would have that be our starting point. I haven't changed much, but there is a big difference between just deciding that you think things will go bad, so you're going to go burn someone's homeland down,
Mm-hmm.
versus, hey, you guys did some pretty bad stuff back there, and we don't trust you, and we have a right not to trust you, and you're sitting in a kingdom that's rightfully ours, and you're attacking us from it, and we're not going to tolerate that anymore. And I think that's a logical starting point for the Alliance that doesn't make Alliance players go, oh, we're the bad guys. I mean, I don't know. If you're an Alliance player and that sounds like you're being made evil, like, let me know. But to me, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. If you think that, let us tell you about how it's actually going.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, that's kind of the only way to do it. To look at it.
But I mean, that's the thing is, like, we all saw that cinematic. And that cinematic sold us on this concept of, oh my gosh, the Horde is finally going to be proud of its war chief again, and we're going to be able to yell for the Horde and feel good about it, but the Alliance is going to be able to yell for the Alliance and feel good about it. And even though we're going to be fighting, like, I mean, there's that weird moment, and it's always a weird disconnect for me at the end of the trailer where Sylvanas gives a slight smirk to Anduin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look at that. There's respect there. And then I'm like, yeah, but people are dying, right? like it's not like a chess match between rivals where it's like, oh, I respect your skill. At the end of the day, like, if this is a bit of a game, like, there's still people losing their lives. But I mean, that's kind of how it felt. Is it was like, we're coming to a head. We're gonna battle and we're going to test each other. And I don't know. I felt so proud of my faction. And then the story came out and it was just a complete 180. And it didn't feel good. And then I was like, well, maybe the Alliance is getting a better story and they're kind of not. So I don't know.
We only know bits of it, but from what I've seen, yeah. Like, I'm not saying that's, anyone's really justified in doing most of this stuff. The whole idea is Azerite's popping up. People want it. So they're proactively killing each other?
Well, and then there was the AMA, or it may not have even been an AMA. It may have just been an interview where people were like, hey, I don't want my faction to be evil. Should I be worried about my faction? And they were like, everybody should be worried about their faction. And I was like, so wait a minute. You're telling me that the answer to should I be worried about my faction's morality isn't, oh no, don't worry about it, just go with it. It's, no, you should be worried. Not just the Horde, but you Alliance people better be worried about it too. By the way, please play our expansion that's all about you helping the Horde or the Alliance achieve these questionable ends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so tinfoil hat, you think that this is just their way of saying, hey, you know what? We've had 12 years of World of Warcraft, and we want to tell you that, war is really a bad thing. Like, this is their G.I. Joe PSA come to us moment.
It's a weird gamble on a PSA. Like, what if we hinged an entire expansion on a PSA?
Yeah, all it does is just end up with Jaina, fighting everybody, and then at the very end, just screaming, "War! What is it good for?"
And I don't know. It could be that I'm getting old, and it could be the times we live in. And I don't, that we are definitely not a political podcast. We're not going down that rabbit
No,
hole. But
definitely.
no matter where you land in politics right now, there's no doubt that we live in an era of hot takes and just absolute division between points of view and understanding. And the real world now has become faction war,
Yeah,
it feels like. And so when you sell me on the expansion of faction war, I think maybe I'm just fatigued by it. It's like, but this is where I go to get away from faction war. This is where I go to spend time with people who maybe don't believe in the same things as I do, but we do agree that we don't like demons and we're going to fight them together. And now it's not that place anymore.
yep. Instead of fighting demons, we're fighting inner demons, John.
Each other.
Yes, you're my inner demon.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, this has kind of turned into our topic, and I didn't mean it to because I feel like
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot.
The thing is we're both really passionate about this game, and if we just like our first step into it is basically just being bowled over with, oh yeah, you're horrible, everything's horrible in the world, the world is the worst place that's going on, and oh, by the way, you're evil now. It's not a good feeling. It's not what you want. And you brought up before of, okay, just wait for the whole story. Here's the thing. A Warcraft expansion takes at least a year to get through. And if I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, it's going to be one of the hardest slogs, to the point where I don't know if I can make that journey.
Yeah, depending on how it goes, there could be some interesting discussions along the way. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it doesn't help that, like, it seems like your player representation, your personal attaché to the war chief, is Nathanos Blightcaller, who could not be a bigger douchebag if he tried.
That's kind of true.
Like, Garrosh Hellscream met Nathanos and looked over and said, he's a bit much.
Yeah.
I cannot stand him. He is the absolute worst. I hate him so much. And he's your go-to guy in this expansion. Horde side. You don't have to worry about this, Alliance players. Hopefully you all have wonderful NPCs you enjoy interacting with. I think you get Jaina, which, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But I think it'll at least be an okay kettle of fish. But we get Nathanos. A guy who, when he has to fly you around on a bat while you do all the hard work, is like,
why do I have to do this?
This is a waste of time. I hate him so much, Ben. He's just bad.
Yeah, I mean, his character model looks cool, but that's where everything ends.
And he should look cooler, because Gen ate his face. Do you remember how his face got eaten?
Yeah, on the boat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his face is still there. I think I'd like him at least 3% more if he had a chomped on face.
Then he'd be up to 4%.
Yeah. It's so bad.
So if we do get past this expansion, I never thought I would say if we get past an expansion before. Oh, that kind of sucks. Anyway, so if we do get past this expansion, if it actually, holds our attention and gives us that heroic feeling again, do you think that it's perfectly time for another Pandaria?
Yes, please. Oh my gosh.
Like, I'm ready right now for one. The whole idea of, hey, there's this place and yeah, bad stuff happens there, but you know what? It is a breath of fresh air. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this is sweet. This is good. I'm happy with it. And I'm farming, I'm learning this culture and everything like that. Like it's going back to that whole sense of discovery and exploration and everything. And even though the Dread Waste was a horrible, horrible zone, at least there was purpose to it there. It's like there's all these bugs and their whole life is to get over this wall and attack the rest of the continent. We should do what we can to stop that. I was okay with that. It worked. It's like it's an evil thing that we're fighting. And guess what? The Horde and the Alliance fought it. So even though we talk about how it's like every expansion is, oh, there's a greater thing and we're fighting each other and then we stop and fight that thing, I am way better with that than, oh, we're just fighting each other.
Yeah, all those times I made the suggestion of, hey, I'm so sick of this. It wasn't, we should just go all in.
Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe we should just end the conflict.
Yeah, it was maybe we can drop the pretense of we got to fight each other at the beginning. It wasn't drop the common enemy. You dropped the wrong part of the problem.
Yeah. And you know what? To anybody who's thinking, if we take the war out of Warcraft, what's going to happen to PvP? It'll still be there. Because guess what? There's still people who hate each other.
And you know what? You'll still feel good about it because you'll get in there and you'll see somebody just jumping up and down and you'll just want to kill them.
That's one way to do it.
I mean, that's why I want to do it when I'm in PvP. I go out there, I see the battlefield, someone gets attacked, immediately they start jumping around like a bunny rabbit, and I just think that's a character who needs to die.
I hate that when I'm in PvP and someone's jumping around and running around you and everything. I'm like, hey, you suck.
I mean, I know it's a strategy.
Yeah.
But, I just can't stand it. I'm like, nobody fights like this.
Look, stand toe to toe. Be immature about it. We're fighting each other. It's gonna happen.
I mean, granted, also nobody just stands there and takes turns hitting each other, to be fair. But I just want to see somebody make a video of like a real life WoW PvP fight. Where it's just like people pull out weapons and immediately just start strafing in circles around each other while jumping up and down.
Yeah, and then you can tell which one's actually keyboard turning by like turning their head and then slowly turning around after them and can't do it at all.
Yeah. One player's good at it, the other isn't. Actually, that brings up a good point, and maybe because I know we are getting near the end, I want to bring it up, and if we don't go into a full discussion on it, and even if we do, I would like to encourage people to write in on this topic. AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com, because I genuinely have a question for the people and for you, Ben.
Okay.
So I will not get into spoiler territory. I am going to talk about the new God of War game a little bit. It will not contain any...
I beat it.
You beat it. Sweet.
I beat it.
So no story spoilers, but I am going to talk a little bit about gameplay. But I don't think it's anything that's going to spoil anything for anybody.
Okay.
So God of War, I really liked the new God of War a whole lot. I just fell in love with that game. And when I finished the game, when I beat the story, I did not want to stop playing. I just started looking for other things to do, which was nice because there was plenty to do. In fact, there was a realm which I dubbed the Warcraft realm because the thing you do there felt so much like an expansion feature in WoW that I just got the feeling that somebody was like, here's an idea from World of Warcraft.
Is it the place with the clouds?
Yeah, the fog.
Yeah. I kind of felt that too.
Doesn't that feel like a WoW expansion feature? So the nature of this thing is there is a crafting resource in this realm that is only available by opening chests and doing things there. The trick is that in this realm, it's covered in fog and you're slowly dying anytime you're in the fog. But you can create items that let you stay in the fog longer But that, of course, requires the crafting gear that you have to get from the fog. So it becomes a run-based thing of go in, get as much of this stuff as possible, and get out. Because if you die, you lose everything that you've gathered. So it's how far can I go in and do something and gather up all the mats that I can and get out to craft something so I can be in there longer and get more mats so I can build better gear, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Hopefully you're all with me on that. I loved it. I loved this thing. I can do a perfect run of it whenever I want. They stuck a Valkyrie fight in there, which I thought was cruel, but was amazing. It's super fun, and I loved it. They also created a realm that is nothing but gameplay challenges. Here's a fight where you can't take damage, which that one actually does. That one's a little rough, but because I play like a berserker.
Yeah, me too.
I live to take damage. But, you know, it's a bunch of various gameplay challenges. Don't worry, I'm going to bring it back to Warcraft in a minute here, folks. At the top of this challenge tower is a super difficult to beat Valkyrie. And it's a challenging fight. She throws everything at you. Except for the final Valkyrie fight, which throws all of that and then some at you. But anyway, it was a big challenge for me. And I spent 3 days of hours just trying to beat her. Because I could get close, but I just couldn't quite. And if I could just try, if I could just get better at beating this one thing, I could do it. And I just did attempt after attempt after attempt after attempt. Go have lunch. Attempt, attempt, attempt. So here's how it ties to Warcraft.
Have you gotten your Mage Tower appearance yet?
No. Because I can't bring myself to try more than 2 times in a row. And then I yell, F this, I'm done. And I turn it off. And
is that where you're going, by the way?
Yes, it absolutely was where I'm going. When they previewed Legion and they showed the artifact weapons, and I saw the rogue ones, there was only one appearance I wanted. And it is the Mage Tower appearance, and it is the appearance I still do not have. It is my white whale. It is the thing I want most from this expansion. The thought of finishing this expansion without getting it feels much the same way I did when I finished the Lich King expansion without having killed the Lich King. I hate it. But that desire and motivation is being trumped currently by the fact that I don't think WoW is a very fun game to play. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying it's not a fun game. I'm simply saying that I don't think... Sorry, what?
You're saying mechanics.
Yes, I think the act of playing WoW is not fun. Or I'm super bad. It's probably both.
Well, let's look at it this way. There's a very big difference between God of War and WoW in control-wise. With God of War, you have direct inputs and timing that matters and things like that. Versus WoW, which is, okay, I need to make sure I'm standing in the right place. I'm going to hit. I might crit if my stats are good enough. Even more so, I have to make sure that I use my energy effectively. I mean, if you're a rogue, I have to, like there's a lot more... You know what? Okay, let's put it this way. There's a lot more thought into how to legitimately work well in WoW versus God of War, where there's a lot of feel. Because when you're in a given situation, you can feel the, kind of the right button presses or the right combo you need to use, or if you're switching from, fists to axe or whatever. And, you need to work on reactions versus, okay, well, I just take this damage because it's something that I can't avoid at all.
Right.
They're very different types of input. So it makes it a lot harder to, really give you that good, feel that God of War has. Let's look at something like WildStar, which, telegraphed, oh, here's where things are and you need to move. Still not really what you're looking for, because yeah, it's more active in what you're doing and you're trying to, place down attacks or avoid things and everything, but you still don't have that complete one-to-one input via controller and everything. It's not the action sense of it that you're kind of looking for. And an action sense with WoW would be a huge overhaul that could be really cool.
Yeah, it could also be exceptionally detrimental.
Yeah, it
Um,
was for the game.
it
Like,
could absolutely kill the game, because don't get me wrong, so this weekend I was watching something. I'm trying to remember what it was, and I can't remember, but I was into it, and
mhm.
because I was into what I was watching, I was limited on what games I could play, because you don't want to play a very like, I can't play Heroes when I want to watch something on Netflix. I
Yeah,
can still have Netflix on, but I'm gonna get maybe 30%. It's gonna be low.
exactly.
And WoW is a game that I can play while Netflix is on. I don't have to tune in a big way. It depends. I mean, if I'm raiding, probably not the time to watch football or something.
Yeah, who would do that?
He's a monster. Uh, but generally speaking, I can log into WoW and not have to put a lot of thought into it. Now, I
Yeah.
tried while I played God of War. I frequently had podcasts or other things on. And if we're using the same scale, I'd say maybe I was at about 50%, because God of War asked for more
Oh yeah, that
attention.
combat is very attention driven.
And so, yeah, if they asked more from me from WoW, that would be tough. That would be a tough sell. Even though I'm the one sitting here saying I don't think it's exciting, there's still that part of me that's like, yeah, but I kind of like it for what it is. And I think there's a lot of people out there. And that's why I don't want you to write in if you like it for what it is. Because there's a lot of you, and we probably don't need a million emails. It wouldn't be that
Well,
many.
at the same time, though, we want to scale on it. We want to see kind of what people are thinking. So I do say write in if you
I
like what it is and tell us why.
But I mean, that's what I'm getting at is, how do you think WoW plays? Like, do you think how it plays is its strength? Do you think it's a detriment? I mean, look, we're talking about a game that is pretty old. Like, expecting it to play like a modern game is also kind of weird, because it's not a modern game. They make changes, but generally speaking, the way you fight and do battle in WoW is the same as it's ever been.
Hmm.
It's just something I've been thinking about, because when I look at how much trouble I'm having with the Mage Tower, it's not a case of I'm a personality that can't put in the time. I've done it for other games. I've devoted insane amounts of time to mundane, stupid things in video gaming. But there's something about WoW when it pulls up its pants and says, we're going to be challenging, that I hate the way it's quote unquote challenging.
That's interesting.
It,
I
it
mean, I haven't, I haven't real know that, yeah, I don't really have any sort of drive to, do heroic rating. I definitely don't care about mythic rating. There have been times where it's like, the actual input and everything I felt has kind of disabled me in certain, boss fights until, I'm able to predict so much behavior and everything like that. But I mean, I'm kind of the same way when it comes to the Mage Tower, though. It's like I really like that appearance. If I don't get it personally, it's not the biggest deal to me. I mean, I'd like to have it because transmog, but the big thing about it is that for me, at least what it feels like is that I can have an entirely perfect run, and then because the enemies crit once, that's the end of it. It's not consistent for me going through trying to do the ceiling challenge. And because of that, I can't be like, okay, well, at 3 seconds I need to heal him for this much. At 5 seconds I need to heal him. It's always, who knows if it'll hit, how fast things are dying. It varies so much that for me, I just get frustrated, because it's like have one guy left, and then all of a sudden I'm dead or someone else is dead or something like that. And like I've never gotten to the second part because I've only done it. I think at most is I think maybe 5 attempts in a row, and then I'm like, screw this.
Yeah, it's hard to marathon. I've tried a couple times where I've just said I'm gonna just put in the time, and I think you're probably right. I think maybe 5, 6 times is about the most that I could put in. So I guess just to clarify for emailers' purpose, what I'm interested in is what do you think of WoW being challenging? Because there's a lot of people out there that like heroics and Mythic Plus and all of that. Like, do you think it's a game that is fun and doing challenges and difficulty properly, or do you think there's a better way for the game to do it? And where do you stand on WoW gameplay wise? Do you think the gameplay is perfect for what it is, or do you think it's something that Blizzard should keep tweaking and working on? Because you mentioned WildStar, and WildStar very much wanted to add a little action to the combat, and I appreciated it, but my big issue with WildStar is WoW is a game that plays really well. It feels right. It feels responsive in the right ways,
Mm-hmm.
and WildStar didn't. And that was my biggest issue. It felt floaty in a way is the best way that I can describe it.
That is a good game description.
And I didn't like the floatiness of it. There's a tightness to how WoW plays that I expect in an MMO, and when that MMO doesn't play that way, I I'm too used to WoW. I mean, somebody could make a case that, well, this play style is actually better, but I've put so many years into WoW now that if you're going to make a game like WoW, it better play at least as good as WoW, and it better play at least somewhat similar with how the feel of the game is, because I've gotten way too used to it.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want them getting too used to us, so let's call this a show.
We should call this a show.
Yeah.
I hope they enjoyed it. If they didn't, then the good news is Ben told me a fun little fact that every 7 years you become a new person. And
Yeah.
so on our 7-year show anniversary,
Will be entirely different.
Ben's going to just rage all the time. And I'm going to just be like, man, no, it's cool.
Then I'll get all the hate mail for a change.
That's right.
All right. Well, John, if they do want to find out more about you or what you're doing, what is the best place they can do that?
Follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. Spell it how your heart feels it should be spelled. And we'll go with that. And, you can catch me on There Will Be Dungeons, which is a Dungeons & Dragons show I do every Saturday. And you can also catch me on Core, talking about Heroes of the Storm. And that's more information about that at heroesforyou.com.
Cool.
Benjamin,
Yes, sir.
where can people find you?
Best place to find me is on Twitter. I'm at Ben the Mage, spelled how you'd think you would.
Ben not getting a lot of miss attempts, probably.
Yeah, it's kind of weird like that. Other than that, though, I do a show with Eludra called Battle Pets, and that's where we talk about battle pets in the World of Warcraft. So check that out. It's a lot of fun, and we get really goofy and silly sometimes.
All I'm going to say, Ben, is if there was a book in the Bible called Ben, spelled Behn, you'd be just screwed.
Yeah, but there is in the Old Testament, there is Benjamin. So I'm covered either way, really.
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah. This show, Azeroth Roundtable, you can find us on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT. If you have any questions, comments, you do want to write in and, let us know what you think about, control and gameplay and all that stuff. Make sure to go ahead and send that to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. And, of course, all of our episodes are found on AzerothRoundtable.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn. So apparently the Google podcast app sometimes doesn't like to refresh. I'm sorry, but there's absolutely nothing we can do about that. Like, at all.
You should Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Say, why is my podcast not refreshing?
And that's how they know. That's how Google learns.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's how it knows to give you that weird look whenever it sees you at parties. Because it knows what you Googled.
Ew.
It knows.
Well, John, there is one more bit of housekeeping we need to take care of.
Sure, this show is made possible for good or for ill by people going to patreon.com/AzerothRT and throwing money at the problem. And we like to thank our Murloc Club every week for being extra special supporters of the show. So a thank you to Chris B, Frasley S, Kryn Haster, Mimi H, Aaron, and Simon. Thank you so much for being a part of the Murloc Club and helping us make this show possible. So,
Also, we would like to thank our newest patron. Don't forget The Tone, who joined us earlier in the week.
and one last thing before I forget. This Saturday is the Heroes Charity Brawl.
Oh, man.
The third annual charity brawl. So please come donate, support. HeroesCharityBrawl.net is the website if you want to support us. It's got the information on the event as well. For those who don't know what it is myself, a bunch of Heroes of the Storm podcasters and people from the community. Some you even know from World of Warcraft shows, like Scott Johnson, Jules Scott from Torn Think Tank's going to be on there this year. That's going to be really exciting. We all throw down in epic fashion with fun games. Mm-hmm. Games so fun that it inspired an actual brawl that got put in Heroes of the Storm. That's how fun. So check it out. That's this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific is when that starts for the event. But you can donate anytime, heroescharitybrawl.net.
All right. I'm definitely going to check it out. That is one of the fun things that you guys do every year. And, I can't sell it enough. Definitely check it out. It's a ton of fun. Donate if you can. And, help out those charities.
Yeah, it's all going to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Cool. I didn't know which one you're going for, so I just tried to keep it incredibly open.
Well, that's what reminded me that I should tell people.
Yeah, no, Make-A-Wish is a very good foundation. I highly recommend donating to them. But with that, everybody, even if we're on different factions, even if we are fighting each other, make sure to be good to each other. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, and that's a show, John.
We did a show.